Cozy season has officially arrived here in Western Pennsylvania. We're nearing the end of October. The leaves have mostly all changed. A lot of the trees are actually already dropping their leaves. The sky has been very gray and gloomy and overcast. And I've been having to wear my winter coat and hat and gloves and all of that when I go out to walk the dog in the morning. Hello everyone, my name is Amber and this is a Lovely Yarn podcast. Thank you so much for joining me here in this space today. Today I want to talk about all things cozy. It is fall. We're deep in fall right now here in Pennsylvania. I know some of you are still hanging on to summer, but where I'm living, we are definitely in the deep fall season. You can feel it in the air. You can see it when you look out the window. And so I've been pulling out my knits. I've been knitting more because I just, when it gets cold outside, I just get the itch to knit even more. And so I want to talk about what I've been working on. I have a finished sweater that I want to share with you guys. I have a couple of new cast-ons since the last time I did a regular episode. And then I also want to talk about 5 of my favorite cowl patterns, because I find that cowls are just a really great layer of warmth, especially when you're transitioning between seasons. And so I have 5 that I've knitted and that I wear repeatedly. So I want to talk about those as well. And I also want to talk a little bit at the end about what I'm currently reading and what I have read lately. So if that is something that's interesting to you, thank you for joining me. Let's go ahead and get started and let's talk about all the cozy things. So the first thing I want to talk about today is my finished Dreyma sweater. This is a pattern by Jennifer Steingass. I love this. I knit this, so I cast this on when we were at the beach in September, and I think we were at the beach from like September 13th through the 20th. And then I finished it last week and it's somewhere around October 21st or 22nd, something like that. Today, I've honestly lost track this week. So I knit this sweater in a month, which it is knit on a heavier gauge yarn, but also I really enjoy knitting this particular pattern. This is my 3rd Dreyma sweater. My very first one I knit for my daughter. The second one I knit in the same exact yarn and color as my daughter's because I loved hers so much. And then this is my 3rd, and this one is for me. And the yarn that I used for all 3 of those sweaters was the Drops Air. And I feel like it makes a really nice yarn for this particular pattern. So where my other 2 Dreymas that I knit were a dark body, I used like a dark charcoal color, and then a very light, almost white gray color for the contrast. This one, I just kind of like flip-flopped and I did a lighter colored body and I did the darker yarn color for the contrast in the yoke. So I knit size 5, I believe. Yes, I knit size 5, which is meant to fit will have a finished chest circumference of 43 3/4 inches. And this sweater is meant to be worn with like 2 to 4 inches of positive ease. So I knit this using size 6 needles, which is what the pattern calls for. And I think the yarn, it calls for an Aran weight yarn. So before the last time I knit this sweater, and when I originally started knitting color work, I would always go up a needle size for my color work because I noticed that my tension was always tighter when I was knitting color work. And so what would sometimes happen is for instance, where the color work was, where in a sweater, it's here in the yoke, it would be much tighter than the rest of the body and I would get a lot of puckering and stuff. That is not really a problem for me anymore, only because I love color work. So I knit a lot of color work projects and I've really learned to just chill out and ease up on my tension. And so I don't feel the need to go up a needle size, but it is something to consider if you're new to color work and you're finding that you're getting puckering. Like a lot of where it would happen would be where I would transition from the color work back into the body. It would be like puckered, or you could even get it up in the color work. And so just go up a needle size and that will help with your tension. But I don't do that anymore. So I just stuck with the size 6 needle, which is what the pattern calls for. I think that's a 4mm needle. And I knit the entire body in that. And as you can see, there's color work at the bottom of each sleeve and also the body at the top of the hem before you start the body hem. And I did not use the waist shaping that's included in this pattern. I just continued knitting straight. So after I separated from my sleeves, I just went straight. Didn't do any waist shaping because I did not put waist shaping in my other 2 Dreymas, and I knew that I tend to like a more loose, I don't want to say sweatshirt-like, but just a little bit more comfy. I didn't want any, I don't really care for fitted clothing. And so, yeah, that is that. Oh, so for my bind offs, I did do a tubular bind off. Sometimes words just don't want to come. And then she also, the designer, Jennifer, also gives you the option of doing like a hem or a ribbed hem, and then the rolled hem. And I have always chosen the rolled hem because I really love how it looks with this first like motif of color work. This just reminds me of like a garland or a banner, and I think it looks really nice popping out from underneath the rolled hem. So I have always done a rolled hem for my neckline. And I don't know that there's anything else to tell you about this other than I used color 2, which is this natural color. And I used this blue, I was color number 45. And I will link everything down below so that you can get all those details. So I think that's everything I'm going to say about this, but I really love it. I haven't worn it yet because I typically don't wear my knits until I've talked about them on my podcast. And I've had this done now. Well, I blocked it over the weekend and it is now Friday when I'm filming this. So I've had it done for a couple of days now where I could have worn it, and I almost grabbed it a couple of times, and then I'm like, no, I need to wait. So I'm so glad to have been able to share this with you. It's a pattern that I would very much recommend, and I think that it would be pretty fine. I think it would be fine for a first-time color work project. I think the longest float is maybe 5 stitches or 6 stitches. And then, yeah, and you honestly wouldn't even have to put the color work any other place. Like if you finish the yoke and you were like, okay, I don't really want to do the color work again. I just want some smooth selling. Then you could just leave this off. And people have done that. I noticed on the project pages, but I really like that touch of color work again at the bottoms of those. So yes, love that pattern. That's probably why I finished it so quickly, because I just find it to be so enjoyable. Plus it is a heavier weight gauge. And actually this is I think this might be part of the reason I like Drops Air. It's a thicker weight yarn, but it's not like sweltering hot. And I think it's because it's blown into a tube. It is like a blown yarn, Drops Air. So it has a nylon tube or polyamide tube, and then they blow the alpaca into it. And so I never feel that I get really overheated at least as fast or as quickly as I do with some other wool sweaters of mine. So I attended the PA Sheep and Wool Festival a couple of weekends ago, and right before I went, maybe the day before that festival started, ToriKnitsNYC, I think her name is Tori Yu, she released a pattern called the Creativity Cowl. And so when I went to the wool festival, I went with the intention of finding yarn, and I actually knew I was probably going to buy it from Hill Fleeces. So I went there with the intention of buying a skein of yarn for that particular pattern. And this pattern calls for a DK weight yarn. You need 2 different colors. You need your like main color, and then you need your contrasting color. Now, when I had looked at this pattern, I think Tori had written something about it being very user-friendly for handspun yarn, and I have a lot of handspun yarn that I have not used. So I was like, oh, perfect. I'm going to get a skein of Jody's yarn, Flower Hill Fleeces, and then I will use one of my handspun yarns as the contrast color. So let me show you. I flew through this. I really did. It's very close to being done. So the way that you do this is you cast on, and you basically are knitting across, like on the bias, and you knit across the top, like the neck. And then you start doing your decreases. And so you get to you'll have like this much left over here, and then you'll seam it together with the other side. So you're going to get a bandana type cowl, similar to this cowl that I'm wearing, which I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, by the way. So I was working on this nonstop, really. Like anytime I had a few minutes, I would sit there and I just left it out on my coffee table. I would grab it and I would put a few rows on because I was really enjoying it. And this yarn from Flower Hill Fleeces is just so dreamy and squishy and like bouncy, and I love it. And then it's also really fun to be able to knit with my handspun because I haven't knit with a lot of my handspun. I spin it and then I set it on my shelf and I just look at it because I'm always like, oh, I need the perfect project for that. Well, I decided the time for that is over. I need to just use that yarn. So I was really enjoying this. Now, my problem is that I ran out of yarn. I ran out of the yarn from Flower Hill Fleeces. And this yarn, by the way, that I got from Flower Hill Fleeces, here's the tag. It is Homegrown Brothers and Sisters. It's Shetland yarn. This is from sheep on Jody's farm. And it is a DK weight. And there was 200 yards. And the pattern said that you would need, I think it was like 220 of your main color. But I was hoping that I would be able to like make it work with only 200. What does it say for your main color? So no, for the size that I wanted to knit, because this comes in 3 different sizes. It's youth, adult small, and adult large are the sizes. So the adult small, I needed 215 yards of my main color. And so this was 200 yards. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll get lucky. Well, I didn't get lucky because this is all I have left. And I know it's not going to be enough. I mean, it's going to be close, but it's not going to be enough. So I was bummed about that because I was cruising right along with it. And I was thinking, oh, I'm going to get this finished like in the next couple of days. And then it became very clear to me that I was going to have to get more yarn. Now, getting more yarn from Jody is not an issue because Jody's my friend and she's also my neighbor. So it's not an issue at all. So I just texted Jody and I'm like, hey, do you have any like mill ends that you could sell me? Because when you have a mill that is spinning yarn, they measure out your skeins and then there are often like leftovers at the end, which are the mill ends. So they may not be exactly 100 grams or 50 grams or whatever, however the yarn company sells them. They're like a weird amount of yarn. And so I texted her, well, she was not home at that time. So I'm waiting to hear back from her about what she has. She thinks she probably has more of this. And it is so like, oh my goodness, there's hair. It's my hair. Can you see how squishy and just wonderful it is? Like it's so squishy and plump. And I love that I love when yarn is like that. It is a 2-ply. And it's very soft. I think it is. I think it's very soft. So I'm just waiting to hear back from Jody and to see if she has any like, I mean, I will buy another skein if I need to, but I thought if she has like ends that I could buy from her, because I don't need anywhere near a full skein. And it is really, really nice when you can use up a full skein of yarn and not have like leftovers. That hardly ever happens, which is why I have such a like stash of scraps. I like scrappy projects though, but it is nice. It feels good when you can use up a whole skein of yarn or only have a tiny little bit left. So I'd rather not have to buy a whole skein, but I will if that's what I need to do, because this is going to be a gorgeous cowl. I think it's going to look and feel even nicer once it's blocked. So, oh, let me show you my handspun. I do not have any information about this handspun other than it's an organic merino. But here's the thing. I started spinning maybe 10 years ago. And I spun way more. Like, I have not spun very much since 2020. I did most of my spinning prior to that. And so almost everything I have is stuff that I spun before 2020. Now, I did not tag things well. I would see now, like Amber of present day would have written where I got this fiber from, like the company that I bought it from, as well as the fiber content. But Amber from back then only put the fiber content and then the yardage that I got. So I don't know where I got this fiber from. And honestly, it's been so long that you probably couldn't get this anyway. I've had some people asking me I think it was on my last episode, but it's like purples and pinks and greens and like a little bit of like a yellowish. And so you can see the color change throughout. So this is a very fun project, and I just pulled my needle out. Hold on. Okay, this has been a very enjoyable project, and I think that it would be a great cowl to make, like for other people as well, to gift it. Okay, the next project I'm making is also being made out of yarn that I bought at the PA Sheep and Wool Festival. So I am making the pattern called Murmured in Dreams, and this pattern is written by Rebecca, who also owns Dusty Tree Fiberworks, or Dyeworks, sorry, Dusty Tree Dyeworks. And so I went to her booth and I was looking at her shawl that she had there, the Murmured in Dreams shawl, and I decided to buy yarn to go ahead and make that particular shawl. So I have already caked it up and I've been working on it throughout the week. And this has also been a really enjoyable knit. I've just been letting it set out, and I'll grab it and work on it a little bit when I have time. But I want to show you the two yarns I'm using. So this is her Root Base, which is a non-superwash fingering weight yarn. And it is, well, let me grab the tag. This is her little logo. This is 100% extra fine Australian merino. And as I said, it's non-superwash. There's 437 yards and 100 grams. And so she wrote this pattern, Murmured in Dreams, to be used with two different contrasting colors. And I think she had two different samples there, or maybe I saw two different samples on the project page, where one she did in high contrast, which this would be a high contrast. And then the other one she did in a low contrast, which it was like shades of maybe blue and gray. I can't remember. So it was more of a subtle, but let me show you here what mine is so far. Okay, so this is achieved. You're basically going to get, you can't see it well yet because it's so small. I don't have a lot done yet, but you get like these ribs almost. And this is achieved using slip stitches. And this is let me think here. It's a 12-row repeat that gets you this texture. And it's a really enjoyable knit. Okay. It has a neat slip stitched edge, which is nice. It looks nice and finished. Although I did notice yesterday that the one edge of mine is much tighter than the other edge. So I'm glad I noticed that, because that is my fault. It was how I was tensioning the yarn when I was slipping that end stitch. And so now I'm being more mindful that I don't pull it tighter on. It was just naturally happening, but now that I'm aware of it, I can correct it. And so, yeah, this green color is called Tree Canopy, and the more orange color looks very peachy actually when it's up against the green, but that is called November Walk, or November Walks. Yeah, November Walk. So November Walk and Tree Canopy. I am knitting this on size US 7 needles, which is what the pattern calls for. I want to quickly talk about some of my favorite cowls that I have knitted over the years. I have actually knit way more cowls than this, but these, I pulled my favorites. I have 5 favorites that I kind of like. I'll wear one for a while and then I'll be like, okay, let's switch to a new one. And then I'll wear that one for a while. So I just kind of like rotate through these 5 on a much more regular basis than I wear my other ones. So, well, the first one we'll talk about is my Shift cowl. I think it's called the Shift. Yeah, I always get, because she has, Andrea Mowry is who designed this, and she has a lot of different accessories and garments within the Shift family. So this is called the Shift, and it is knit using mosaic knitting. So that's what gives like all this color change and texture. I feel like I should take this off so I can stand by it, because I have my mic. So I just need a minute. I'm going to take this off so I can hold it up and show it to you. But first you can see kind of how it like lays on me. It's a bandana type shawl. I feel naked. I've had this shawl on my neck, or this cowl on my neck all morning, and it was nice and toasty warm, and now I feel cold and naked. Okay, so here, I can show you better now because I took it off. So as you can see, it's this is achieved using mosaic knitting, and I used Shawl. Hold on, let me look. Shawl edition 3, 100% superwash merino yarn, and it's like a color changing barber pole type of a yarn, almost like spin cycle or feeder brook or your hand spun that you would spin. And I used colors 2301 and 2471, and I think I used 2 skeins of each. I did not write that down, but I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly. The pattern calls for a sport weight yarn, and I don't know if the yarn I used was sport weight or not. I think it was, yeah. And then you're supposed to use a US 5 or a 3.75 millimeter needle. So it's knit on the bias, kind of like the Creativity cowl that I was just showing you. You start on one end, you knit on the bias across, finish up over here, and then you seam it together. And it is slightly asymmetrical. I don't know if you can tell that, but it's just a fun project because of all the, like when you get the yarn and you just, I don't know, it's just fun because of all the different colors. And I think this would be a really good pattern if you have some hand spun that is the correct weight. I think I knit this project actually for Jody as a sample in her farm yarn. I think it was this pattern. I don't think it was the shawl. No, it was definitely this pattern. And that also turned out really beautiful. If I have a picture of that, I'll put it up here, but I may not have that picture anymore. And that was just using 2 different solid contrast colors. And that was also a very beautiful version of this. So this is one of my faves. And it has all of my favorite colors in it, the blues, the purples, the greens. And so it works well in my wardrobe. And it's also really great. I love bandana style cowls because you can like tuck them in. Another favorite is called the Grande Double Wrap. This is a pattern by Cozy Up Knits, and it is a double wrap shawl. not shawl, cowl. So it is knit longer and then you wrap it double around, and it is made with fingering weight yarn, 2 different colors. I cannot tell you what this yarn was because I knit this like 4 years ago, and it was in yarn that I won in a giveaway even years before that. It is a single ply, but I do not remember the dyer, nor do I remember the colors, so I'm sorry about that. And I didn't write anything down. I was so annoyed at myself this morning when I was trying to find the details of it. So I don't have any of the yarn specifications for this, but it takes like 800 to 840 yards. So basically 2 100-gram skeins of contrasting fingering weight. And you do like a provisional cast on, and then you knit it flat. And then there is all this like really nice texture that's nice and squishy. You've got it there. You've got it here. You've got some garter rows. And then you also have a panel of 2 color brioche, which, can you see I messed up? See that line right there? I did something wrong there. I don't even care. I did something wrong. And it's okay. Anyway, this is really cozy. This is a cozy one, and you wrap it double, so it's nice and warm. So this is one that I wear on days that are really windy and blustery. And even in the winter, I will wear this one because I can wrap it double, and then I can kind of like pull it up over my nose even. Next cowl is, I love this cowl. I love color work though. So this was a fun colorwork cowl to knit. If you've never knit colorwork before and you want a first colorwork project, this would probably be a good one, because you're just casting on, you're doing your 2x2 ribbing, and then you get into the colorwork, and it's in the round. So you're not doing any flat colorwork, and the floats are all short. Like you don't have any really long floats. And then you just get this really pretty motif. Now, this particular cowl is knit out of Peyton's North American worsted. So it is a worsted weight, and I'm pretty sure that's what the pattern calls for, a worsted weight yarn. And I knit this using Natural Mix, which is the light color. And then the darker color is called Mercury. I used a 1/2 skein of the lighter color and 3/4 of a skein of the darker color. So you can make this with 2 skeins of the Peyton's worsted, which I think is amazing. And Peyton's is very economical. Anyway, wouldn't this make a great gift? Now, the only thing I will say about this particular yarn is if you are giving this to somebody, it is slightly, I don't want to say it's scratchy. I don't find it scratchy, but I am not very sensitive at all. But somebody like my daughter, or even somebody maybe even a little bit less sensitive, might have a problem with this. But the whole point is you can make this particular cowl and not spend a bunch of money on it. And it makes a beautiful handmade gift that you could give to somebody. And it is free, by the way. This pattern is free. So I really like this one. I did make a note that if I would knit this again, I would do a different bind off, because I knit a stretchy bind off, and I don't know if you can see that, but it kind of like flares out at the end, and that I don't really care for that. You can definitely see how it's like really loose looking there and a little flared. If I would knit this again, I would do probably a 1x1 rib and then do a tubular cast off. There is a way to adjust to a 2x2 rib to do a tubular cast off, but I tried that one time and I found it very fiddly. So I would probably just do a 1x1 ribbing and do a tubular cast off on that. Or maybe I wouldn't use such a stretchy bind off. Okay, this cowl is one that I wear on days that aren't quite as intensely cold, because it is a little bit more, like the gauge is a little bit more open. And isn't this beautiful though? So this is called the Willow Lace Cowl, and this is a pattern by Fox and Folk. And I knit this using Quince & Co. Owl. It's their owl base, and this is the color Elf. And I used 1.5 skeins for this project on size US 8 needles or 5mm. So for this pattern, you need 180 to 200 yards of yarn, and I have written down that I used 180 yards. So isn't that just a beautiful, oh, it's just so beautiful. It's the whole way around. So it's knit flat and then it's seamed. Fox and Folk has some really beautiful patterns. But yeah, I wanted to share this one because I think it's not a hard pattern. It's very simple actually to knit. Pretty sure that's an I-cord edging, but it just is so beautiful. Wouldn't this be a gorgeous gift to give someone that who you love? I think cowls make good gifts because they're smaller, so they're easier to make. They're less of a financial investment. And then also for me, a lot of people that who I know, they don't really wear shawls. Like shawls aren't really a thing in my circles of friends, but I feel like a cowl would be more likely to be worn because they can just slip it on. It's easy. Yeah. Anyway, beautiful pattern by Fox and Folk. Now this cowl is the one that I'm actually wearing. It's in my regular daily rotation right now. And this is the Sunset Harbor Cowl, and this is a pattern by Tammy Gore. I think this was released either last year or the year before. I was a test knitter for this. I love Tammy's patterns. She also has some really great patterns. I've knit multiple of her patterns. I knit mine in the Sirdar Hayworth tweed, and I used 1.5 skeins of this main color, which is called Yorkshire, and I used 1/2 skein of the contrast color, which is Rydell Russet, and I knit this on size US 4. The pattern calls for a much larger needle, but I was having such an incredibly hard time getting gauge to the point where I finally reached out to Tammy and I said, as I was test knitting, I was like, I cannot get gauge. Can I just go forward? And she said, yeah, that's fine. And I did. And I love this. I love this so much. So you're basically knitting a tube, a large tube, and then you seam it together at the end. Where's my seam? Right here. You graft it together, and Tammy does provide a link to a video that shows you how to do this grafting. So that's provided in the pattern. But I think this would be, this is another good first color work pattern because you are just knitting a tube in the round. And so this one is fairly warm because it's double layered. So see, look, I can see it's like a tube. And it is very, very cozy. And the colors are so pretty. This tweed, it has like specks. I just love it so much. So yeah, that is the one that I am wearing right now, and I'm loving it. Okay, really quickly, I want to talk about the book that I'm currently reading. So this time of the year, I always kind of get in the mood to read cozy. I call them the cozy murder mysteries. I think that's the genre that they're in. I don't like scary things at all. I am not someone who's going to watch horror movies or scary movies. No, thank you. I did that as a teenager, and not doing that anymore. Watching those kind of things or reading those kind of books, they have me feeling paranoid for at least 1 week afterwards. So I don't do that, but I do cozy murder mysteries. And I would put authors like Agatha Christie in this. What is that other? There was another series that I read. I can't remember the author. I can't even remember the character names because this was several years back. But I like that kind of genre. I like that genre of book this time of the year. And so I'm currently reading Shady Hollow. This is a book by the author, I think that's June Black. And it is just like, it's woodland creatures. And you become immersed in their cute little village where nothing bad happens till something bad does happen, and one of the characters is murdered, and then the other animals set to work trying to discover who the murderer is. I'm not really far into the book yet, as you can see, but so far it has been, I look forward to reading this. And I normally read right before I go to bed at night. That's kind of how I unwind at night. I don't typically read throughout the day. My reading time is all in the evening. I crawl in bed, read my book until it gets me nice and tired, and then I'm done reading for the day. But this has just been a really fun, nice read to end my day. I also just finished reading We Were Liars. That is a book by E. Lockhart. And that book got mixed reviews on Goodreads. A lot of people complained about the style of writing, which for me, it didn't really bother me. I have noticed, so I have been known by family members, or family members have at times called me a grammar Nazi because I am very particular about, like, in writing and stuff, I will catch errors. And one of the things I've noticed, because I do read a lot, is that a lot of the rules, the grammatical rules that I learned growing up 30 years ago, 40 years ago, do not seem to apply anymore. So I've had to really adjust. When I read, I have to really adjust my brain for that. So this book was written in a way that at one point in time that would have really bothered me, but I have adjusted, just like sentences that aren't really full, complete sentences, like that kind of a thing. However, the thing I loved about this book is that I did not predict the ending at all, nor would I have predicted the ending. It was such a twist. And because of that, I gave it 5 stars. If an author can keep me completely in the dark until the very end, I am so impressed by that. I'm so impressed. I love a book where I cannot predict the ending. And I couldn't predict the ending. I thought I maybe had some predictions of how it was going to end, but then when it actually ended, I was like, oh my goodness. And so that for me was a good book. So I actually asked a friend on Instagram who is also an avid reader. I said, have you read this book yet? And she said, is it by E. Lockhart? Is it a series? And I said, no, I think it's just a standalone. And then I was like, oh, maybe it is part of a series. So I went onto Amazon and I saw that it was part of a series. It was the first book of 3. The second book is a prequel to that book. So I ended up getting on my Libby app and I have the second book in the series on hold. It's probably not going to live up to the first book, but I'm interested in reading it. I'm going to read the second one and then I'll decide if I want to read the last book in the series. But yeah, it was just when a book, like I said, when a book can keep me guessing till the very end and then being completely shocked, I love that. I love when an author can do that. I am on Goodreads. If you want to follow me over there, I will try to remember to put my link down below. And I make a goal every year. I love Goodreads for just keeping track of what I've read. And for the last multiple years, I don't remember how many, I always participate in the reading challenge. So you can set a challenge of how many books that you want to read for that year. Every year, I seem to bump it up a few books. I'm up to 55 books this year that I want to read. And I think I am on my 49th, but I'm reading I read multiple books at a time. Yeah, that's just how I am. I know that not everybody likes to do that, but for me, I like to do that. I kind of read like I knit. I knit what I'm in the mood to knit on, and I kind of read what I'm in the mood to read. So I often have 3 to 5 books going on at one time. And so what typically happens is that I won't finish any books for a while, but then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, let's get these done. And I'll just go on a reading marathon and I'll finish a bunch of books at one time. But I am on Goodreads. So if you want to follow me over there, you can join me over there. Okay, so the last thing I want to do for this podcast episode is announce the giveaway winner because I did the special episode on the vest that I was really loving this season. And in that episode, I had asked you guys to drop your favorite vest out of the ones that I had talked about in the comment section, and that I would randomly pick a winner on the next regular episode, and that person would receive the pattern of their choice from that video. So I used a random comment picker for YouTube, and the winner is over here, and it is Deb Anderson F3N. So if you could please just email me using my email that's down below in the video description, alovelyarn@gmail.com. I will just need to know what your Ravelry username is so that I can get you your pattern. So thank you very much for watching and supporting the channel, Deb. And thank you to everyone who came here and sat and chatted with me for a bit about all these lovely woolly things that we're getting into now this time of year here in the Northern Hemisphere. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for your support. And if you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing if you have not already done so. So I hope you have a wonderful time with your knitting and your reading, whatever other cozy things that you are doing in these beautiful fall months we're having. And I will see you guys all next time. Bye.